Welcome to Live Coding Afternoon Tea. I'm Travis Toulson. We are in a new time slot today. I've opted to start doing the live stream every week. So it will now, because Earl and I were alternating Wednesdays at the exact same time, I decided to move over to the Thursday slot so I could do this every week because the AI agents that we've been doing has me really excited to keep going. Like this has been fun, and I'm really interested to see what we can do to push this forward. If you're joining for the first time, last time we started a new series diving into AI agents on ServiceNow. So basically, we're taking the idea of the C3 troubleshooting tool where we were going in and trying to basically, the gist of it is that we have to operate the C3 app, the one that makes your superhero avatars. We operate this app at every event. Our World Forum events, we operate it at Knowledge. And so part of operating it, of course, is dealing with the bugs, the quirks, the mishaps that we didn't catch along the development cycle. And so I was building a tool using Service Portal to try and help with the troubleshooting of that and to make it a little bit easier for us to solve those issues live and in real time at these events. What I'm doing now is trying to reimagine that as an AI agent and to see if we can't create an AI agent that does some of this troubleshooting for us and helps us figure out the issues. Eventually, maybe even making it proactive so that it is doing the job without us having to be hands-on keyboard with it. So that's the goal that we're trying to accomplish. And hey, Christy, welcome. Fresh back. Oh, from a plane. Wow. Well, welcome from the sky. And hello, John. Welcome. So that's the gist of, and Toulson Prime is over here, or am I Toulson Prime? I'm other Toulson, but there have been other nicknames thrown out there, but that's my other half. Hello. And so that's the goal of what we're trying to do is we're trying to get these AI agents to help us with the administration of the C3 application. Hello, hello, and welcome. So before we kick off, let's get a little bit of background music going. And let me know if I need to adjust that up or down. I'm going to turn my speaker off so that it's not playing at me as well. A little loud. Let's try dropping it down to about there. All right, so. All right, hopefully we got that music dialed in. Let's see. So. Right now I'm taking a look at my profile because I have to, we were doing some debugging and testing and I put my profile back into a good state. So I'm going to put it back into the broken state. And then we're going to skip on over to our AI Agent Studio. So as I said, we started creating this C3 profile issue agent last time, where I spent almost the entire time trying to figure out that variables use the double curly brace syntax, not the $ curly brace syntax. Showing my age on the platform there, using the old school method. Hey there, Ben, how's it going? So essentially what we have right now is an agent that does not actually seem to ask to provide the email address. We'll troubleshoot that one later because I am still able to put the email address in. Then it goes through and retrieves a series of records associated with the profile, the C3 profile record for the email that was provided. So that's going to get the QR code, the photo submission, the generated image, and a couple of others. And then we direct it to analyze those collected records to determine if the profile is in a valid state. And ideally, we want it to do some corrective actions in communication. It's not doing anything along those lines yet. Right now, it's just analyzing it and giving us communicated feedback. And then down here, I have the app's expected states. So basically, in the profile state, in the profile step, I say see below for the expected states of the application. I may need to clarify that a bit further as we go, but so far this has worked. So just to test it, select that active version. Start test. And this is kind of what it looks like when it runs. And in part, I'm doing this just to remind myself of how it actually runs, because I don't remember. Ah, hello from Denmark. All right, 2 records were retrieved from the QR code, physical and digital. All 10 records from the photo submission table have been successfully retrieved. That doesn't sound accurate, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. All 5 records have been marked rejected. Ready to retrieve the user details? Yes. So when it asks if it's okay to retrieve the user details, basically that's the supervised versus the autonomous steps or skills for the agent. And apparently I still have something set to supervised. If it's supervised, it will ask you before doing it. If it's autonomous, then it'll automatically execute it like you saw up here, where it was executing, getting the profile record automatically. User details associated with the profile could not be retrieved. Please advise on how to proceed. We'll tell it to skip. Hello and welcome. Yeah, I agree, Victor. I like how it's like, I love how verbose this is. Like, one of the things that I have really enjoyed about developing the AI agents so far is, with as verbose as it tends to be, it's basically like automatic debugging. It's a little bit more challenging for me to adjust to writing narrative versus writing code, and I will say that is something I'm still adjusting to, but I do love how clear AI agents are in what they're doing, how they're doing. It really helps isolate what's going wrong in the system when I'm making mistakes. The profile for is inactive. Okay, so there we go. So it has troubleshot and it says that my profile is inactive and not enabled for the current event, which prevents login. And that's what we would expect to see right now, because that's how I set myself up. With that, let's go back to the create and manage on this, and let's try to connect up some of these other skills correctly. All right, so it did get my related QR codes, and there's that double curly brace syntax. You know what? Let me boost this up. I forgot to do that at the start so that you guys can see it a little bit better. That was rude of me. All right, so that one looked set up right. I think that one's right, but I probably need to check it. Same with the related photo submissions. I do need to check that because I didn't think I had that many. Let's do a quick little create favorite so I can get to this guy faster. Yeah, see, there should only be 2 photo submissions, 8 generated images, 2 QR codes. So then on the next run of the AI agent, that's something I'm going to have to review. Because I think it might be getting extra records that it's not supposed to. All right, let's see. Get profile record, get related photo submission. What were the other things I told it to get? Photo submission, generated images, user, and roles. All right, there we go. Add record operation. Hey there, yeah, absolutely. So today we are building out an AI agent to help with troubleshooting the CreatorCon C3 profiles. Essentially, the app doesn't always work perfectly, and sometimes profiles, when it's creating your card, get stuck in weird states, and we're trying to create an AI agent that will help handle that for us so that at events, myself and the other developer advocates who otherwise are the ones troubleshooting and fixing this can spend more time with you guys at events, as opposed to having our faces shoved in the computer screen trying to figure out why different profiles got stuck. And if we're real lucky, eventually it'll help suggest fixes to our code base. That's the big future state dream. Get user for profile. So right now I'm adding a record operation. Gets a user record given a profile ID. Add an input. So the inputs are basically, these are skills that the LLM, that Now Assist can use to figure things out. So the narrative that I put into the prompt gets mapped to these different skills. Now, I don't actually select them. Christy had mentioned that she had encouraged the prompt to use very specifically named skills, but it also kind of maps it on its own a little bit too. So you don't have to be super explicit with it, but sometimes it may help. So profile ID. So I am now looking up. Actually, let me think about this one. I actually think I want to look up the user record. I think we're going to see how this one works. Oops. Basically, each profile record is associated with a specific user. I want to know that the user is active. Yeah. First name, last name, email. That should be all we need. I'm going to make this one autonomous. Display output. Whenever you see this sparkle, it's usually worth clicking. So in this case, clicking on that sparkle auto-generated a processing message, so I didn't have to sit here and think about how to name things, which is just fantastic. I'm missing something. What am I missing? Oh, I need a condition. Hello, hello, and welcome. And Ben, to answer your question, birthday was fantastic. Had me a nice little ice cream cake. Had some friends over. It was good. Okay, so what's going to happen here is this will now query a user record using a user ID as input. And what I'm going to try to get the... If I come back and look at my instructions, fetch the user record associated with the profile, what I'm trying to encourage it to do here is use the user field on the profile record, get that sysID, and then use the get user record for profile skill to look it up, is what I'm hoping will happen there. And then I need to look up, I need one more record operation because I need the user roles. Get user roles associated with the profile. Ice cream cakes are the best kind of cakes. Like, if you don't have an ice cream cake, you have to add ice cream to the cake. It's best just to start with the ice cream in the cake. Really like a sparkle on the tool description. That would be fantastic. Pass the user ID in, and I think it's sys user has role. Yeah, sys user has role. We're going to look up records. We want to look up where the user's sysID is that user ID that we just entered. And for this, we want the role. and the user. That should be it. I'm going to autonomous that one as well. Sparkle. Okay, let me check and make sure a couple of these other ones were autonomous. You're autonomous. I think we're good. All right, so let's test and see how this has, let's see how this one works. Let's go back. Let me go back and look at this one just to make sure I did it right and I answer your question correctly. So you say, aren't we taking user ID as input, so conditions should be accordingly? So I'm assuming that one is for the roles one. Yeah, so we're taking user ID as the input, and so we're looking for user sysID where it is that particular user ID value. And that curly brace syntax is how we bind our input name to the value. All right, so now we're going to go test. And start. And off it goes. All right, figuring out next steps, executing agent, getting the profile record. It found the right one, I think. Oh, I see what's happening here. It looks like it's getting multiple. Why would it get multiple? Is it? Maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe I'm... Hold on. I gotta format this thing. I gotta format this payload. Copy. Here, let's do it this way. Just dump it into console here. Let's see, records. Okay, it's only one. For a second there, I thought I was seeing multiple, but I think that's just my alternate email. All right, so 2 records have been retrieved from the QR table. 10 records from the photo submission table. See, that seems incorrect. So that's something we definitely need to check on. So I'm going to grab these, and I'm going to grab these. So this is one of the weird, quirky things with AI agents and developing an AI agents is you're not directly mapping inputs and outputs. And what I mean by that is, like in Flow Designer, you're dropping certain data pills into specific locations, so you know exactly what value is going into these queries. You know exactly how it's mapping it. With AI agents, the prompt is more of a suggestion, and the AI agent does its best to figure out what you mean by that. So that complicates things a little bit in terms of the development of it, and you really have to pay attention to the outputs that you're getting to make sure that it's working correctly. Getting user record. It got my user record, and it does appear to have gotten my roles as well. The problem... Oh, there we go, display value. Perfect. So we got the display value. Please update. Yes, so AI agent prompts are trying to understand the context that we give it. So within the prompt, we're explaining to the AI agent what we want it to happen or what we want it to do. My UI froze up, I think. All right, well, I'll keep going. We'll refresh in a second. So, as I was saying, AI agent prompts are making suggestions to the LLM for what you would like it to do. But the LLM interprets it and then attempts to map it to different skills and map the inputs and outputs for those skills based on your narrative. So you're not actually telling it, step one, do this. Everything you tell the LLM is going to be interpreted by the LLM. Now, when we write code, our code gets interpreted into machine language, but the translation is one-to-one. With an LLM, you can think of that as more of a paraphrase translation layer. The LLM language and the machine language don't actually have one-to-one exact representations. Some phrases may get interpreted wrong. There might be a colloquialism that you're using in the prompt that doesn't translate well to the way you would expect it to the machine language. So you run into more of those sorts of translation errors because you're not just encoding word for word. There's semantic meaning in what you have written in the prompt, and that gets interpreted in ways you might not expect. The same way as if you were a native English speaker and you started speaking Spanish to a Spanish speaker, you're likely to say things in quirky and weird ways that don't quite make sense to them. Oh, there we go. Now it's loading up. So in this prompt, when I say fetch related photo submission records for the profile, what I'm hoping it will do is use the skill that I gave it and inject the profile ID into it. Now, we need to double check the data. So there are two associated with this profile. But it's giving me some other ones. So let's see, 24, 23, those are good ones. What about this one? Whose is this? Interesting. That's odd. Okay, so basically the requester field, the profile for this record has been deleted, clearly. So that's why it's showing empty despite the fact that it has a sys-ID. For some reason, the AI agent is still querying these particular records because 1112, 1100, there's a couple other ones it's picking up that seem like it might be another issue, maybe? This is another one it picked up. There's another empty profile. That's funny. So one quick fix that I can do is make sure that I set up my cascade deletes so that when I delete a profile, submission requested profile, so that when I delete the requester's profile, all the associated photo submissions will go with it. That's... Of course, I'll have to do a bit of a maintenance fix to go back and delete all of the old records. But I will say that was really unexpected. I don't know why. What would be really weird is if these were associated with some, I'm wondering if some of these are associated with a profile that has since been deleted or something? No? Hold on a second. Are some not associated with... I see now. That's what happened. Okay. The AI actually is doing exactly what I want. There isn't an issue with the AI. There's an issue in my data because because I'm in a dev environment, I have a bunch of records that have an empty requester, but not an empty requester profile. And when it's querying, because I told it to search by profile, it's searching the requester profile. That's fascinating. So it was finding records correctly. It was finding what it should have found. Let's see. User sysid is not the same as user ID, or does the input mean sysid? Okay, so this is a really good question, and this gets at the heart of what I was saying about the interpretation layer that's going on here. So now that we have resolved this particular issue and identified what was going on in the data, let's address this. If I can spell AI agent correctly. So let's go into that C3 profile. Okay, so when I am in the prompt, I am telling it to fetch the user record associated with the profile. Now notice there's no curly braces, there's no bindings, this is just a narrative description. The AI gets to determine what the word profile means to it, and it gets to decide what user record means and what we mean by fetch and what we mean by associated. So the LLM's going to basically translate this in its model into the skills, inputs, and outputs that it's allowed to use. So now let's look at those skills. Well, the LLM will be aware that it has access to a get user record for profile. Let me step back real quick. Let's step back to the roles one. Fetch, roles, user. It gets to decide what it means by fetch, what it means by roles, and what it means by user. So if I go into the roles one, because this is a better example, get user roles associated with profile, the LLM is going to figure out that fetch user roles for the profile aligns really closely with this particular skill. And it's going to see that there is a user ID available as input. Now, because it has previously queried the user record, the JSON payload associated with that user record is now in the LLM's context. And so it's going to more or less intuit in its big fancy webbed brain, it's going to intuit which fields map in the best way in order to get the desired result. So I don't have to tell it sysid because it's going to intuit the proper ID. Even though technically there is a user ID field and a sysid field, it's going to use whatever data is available in its context to decide how best to map to that particular query. It's going to see that the query is looking for a sysid field, and it's going to say, okay, which of the data I have available to me, what best maps to that particular instruction? And it's going to recognize that on our profile record, we have a user. Where are you? User up top. We have a user field up top, which is a sysid for a user. And basically the LLM's going to intuit that it can leverage that field in the roles query. I don't have to explicitly tell it that. It's figuring it out on its own. And that's one of the big differences between working with an AI model like Now Assist versus directly coding it, is I don't actually have to bind my inputs and outputs directly. The LLM intuits what my meaning is. This can also have unexpected results, which is why you have to check the data like I did last time, and you have to test these AI models a little more thoroughly than you would code, just because there are a lot more potential edge cases. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of the skills offer the supervised. Basically, what you can do is any sort of skill that is going to alter data, you would definitely want that to be supervised. And that will ask the user, hey, would you like me to do this on your behalf? And then the user can look at what has gone on in the rest of the prompt and say, oh, yeah, definitely, let's do that. Let's see. As for the question, do we have one agent or many different types of agents? So you can have many different types of agents. In our current context, we have one, and that is the C3 profile issue agent. However, you can also have agentic workflows, which basically allows you to have multiple AI agents coordinating with one another in a broader workflow. And essentially, it is an AI agent orchestrating other AI agents. And the AI agents themselves become the skills. So you end up with this big, AI agents working for AI agents, and you just end up with teams of AI agents doing all the jobs. And so the Smart Garden workflow is an example of one that Christy has been working on. I thought there were AI agents to it. I haven't gotten into the AI agent workflows much yet, so you'll have to forgive me there. But yeah, basically you can add multiple AI agents to it. Does it have to necessarily be that the prompt given and the name of the tools should be interconnected for it to relate to use the right tool? So do you have to be careful with your naming to make sure it maps to the right skill or tool? I don't know, is the simple answer. The longer answer is that I've already shown with mine that I don't have to use exact naming. The name doesn't have to be precise, but I highly suspect that this is going to depend heavily on how many skills you have with a similar name, how semantically similar the words you use in your prompt and the words you use in your skills are. But it's using the name of the skill, it's using the description in the skill, and it's using the description of your prompt to try and map things together. Now, if you find that your AI agent is having trouble matching the right skill to what you mean in your prompt, then yes, you would want to make your prompt more closely align to the skills that you have. I will also say that there are other ways that you can potentially simplify what skills you have, and I will give a quick example of this one. This is something I discovered yesterday. Right now, I'm getting a profile and all of the QR codes, the roles, the generated images, the related photo submissions. There's this graph of knowledge that are all related to the profile record. And interestingly enough, there is a tool called a knowledge graph. And this is the surprise to me was I assumed that knowledge graph meant knowledge base, and it doesn't. Knowledge graph is a specific set of tools within ServiceNow where you can describe an entry record, like the profile record, and you can describe its relationships in the metadata to the other tables. And then you can essentially send natural language queries to this knowledge graph, and it will query up all the necessary records to answer that question without you having to explicitly tell it which ones are necessary. Now, in the future, will Travis be moving all of these explicit query skills to a knowledge graph? Yeah, probably. Because a knowledge graph I can use across multiple agents, whereas these record operations, I would then have to add each of those skills individually to any agent that I wanted to be able to use them. A knowledge graph makes a lot more sense because it's a lot more flexible in what data it can grant access to without having to create a bunch of discrete queries. And Christy says that the description is more important, and I will 100% trust her experience because she's been doing this one a little bit longer than I have. So I will definitely lean on her expertise on this one. I'm amateur hour at this AI agent stuff. Let's see. Do they have memory as well, or everything they have access to is in the description? My understanding is that each time the agent gets executed, it operates under a new context. So basically, whatever you save in your skills and whatever it queries into the context and whatever you put in the prompt, that is what it has access to be able to do its job. I'm really excited to try the knowledge graph. I started looking into it, and I looked into some of the basic ones, and it made it really clicked for me. So I'm excited to give it a shot. But I have a couple of other things I want to get done with this AI agent before I completely break it. Okay, I won't break it. I'll create a new one that uses a knowledge graph. But I want to get this one working first, and then we can compare it to something else. I mean, after all, that's what we're doing with the AI agent, is we're comparing this to the service portal tool that I built previously. So we'll just keep comparing technologies. So at this point, it is getting all of the records I need it to get. So the next thing I want to do is I want to expand on the app states. Now that it's gathering all of the data, I want to start explaining what other things are needed for this application to work. So I'm going to change this to a numbered list. For the user to log in, they need a profile record that is active and enabled for the current event. let's see if it understands nested lists. So for a user to log in, they need a profile record, an active user record associated with the profile, the user needs the player role. And notice that I'm not explicitly naming the full naming convention of the role. I'm gonna try and see if I can be subtle about it and see if it picks it up. If not, we'll end up changing that to the X underscore SNC underscore blah, 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 blah. So, and now I'm just going off of my knowledge of how the C3 application works. So, and I'm trying to describe to the prompt, this is how it's supposed to work. Do you see any problems with it? So first, for the user to log in, they need a profile record that is active and enabled for the current event. They need an active user record associated with the profile, and the user needs the player role. 2. In fact, let's do something else here to help, because we're going to be walking through the profile records, so let's have a profile record open. So essentially, there is a state field on the profile. When you first get a profile, you're in the new state. And in order to be able to log in with it, you have to be active and a current event marked. Those things should automatically grant your user the player and player without avatar. So players or profiles start out in the new state. And the user, oh, what happened there? And the user should have the player role and the player without avatar role. Users can then submit a photo, which will generate one photo submission record and associated generated image records. The profile is then updated to, or hold on a second, let me think about this one. Yeah, we're good. Then the profile is then updated to the pending image selection state. The photo submission and the generated images, let's see. All right, let's start with the photo submission. The photo submission should be profiles then updated to the pending image selection state. The photo submission and the generated images should be in the pending image generation state. So now I'm just describing how this app is supposed to work. Pending image generation. Okay. Some automation and integrations with Replicate AI will run to create avatars. When this is done, we'll have an avatar image. The photo submission will be in the pending image selection state, and the generated images will be in the pending selection state. They can do this multiple times. Okay. So once it's done, it'll be in that state. The user can then select from the available this, selecting an image will make we'll set the selected generated image to the selected state, and all other generated images on the profile to rejected. This will also update the state of the photo submission to selected or rejected. And the profile gets set to pending composite. This is a whole lot of writing, guys. I'm going to save it at this point just because I want to run the test now. I want to see how any of this has affected the results. So let's see. Now, obviously, we're still in the faulty state, and we are expecting. But let's see what we get as a result. All right, kicking off, getting that profile record. You can see all of our values there. Getting related QR codes. We've got 2. Getting those photo submissions. Got the generated images. Got the user. So one thing I'll note that's interesting is that I could probably shorten some of this runtime if I loaded some of the data on demand. Instead of loading it all up front, it might go faster. Like have it look at the profile first, determine what state the profile's in, and then determine what data it needs from that. That's an improvement we could potentially make. Profile is inactive, not enabled for the current event. The user is missing the required roles. I don't think that's accurate. And all generated images are in the rejected state, which does not align with the expected value. Is that true? That is also not true. So there are 8 generated images in here. And it found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Because I specified a maximum of 5 in the query. That would create an issue, wouldn't it? And given that, it probably only queried ones that were rejected. And so in its assessment, it probably does think the generated images are rejected. That's actually kind of funny. All the generated images are in the rejected state, which does not align with the expected valid states. That's funny. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is I'm going to fix that little quirk. And then I'm going to put my profile into a valid state and we'll run it again. Look at that, 9 tools. All the other ones are like 1 tool, couple tools. I'm like, get all the data. Okay. So generated images. I'm going to set 20 for that. This is probably actually bad to do 20 and 20, but save and continue, save and continue, save and test. Then the next thing we want to do is put this profile in a valid state. Oh, before I don't want to set any fields. Okay. All right, let's run this thing one more time. So now it's in a valid state. So I would expect I would expect it not to tell me that there is an issue with the active inactive. Now, I'm going to let that run in the background because there is one other thing I wanted to check on that I kind of forgot. And we are running up to time here. I don't think there's anything that explicitly says I have to stop after an hour, but, you know, I try to keep things somewhat reasonable. It does not have the... Okay, so that's probably another shortening. So when it's querying the roles, it's probably querying a limited number of roles. And so that's why it's not finding the roles I want it to. So I can adjust that query as well. The analysis has determined that the profile is not in a fully valid state. The user is missing the player and player without avatar roles, and the profile state does not match the expected states for login or progression. The next pending task is to identify the missing or incorrect data in the associated records, specifically focusing on the missing roles in order to proceed with the corrective actions as outlined in the agent instructions. All right, let's fix that one real quick. I kind of wish that I had like the developing and testing in more of a side-by-side. That would be fun. Man, this is so cool. All right, so that one's going to be in the roles. So I am going to expand this query. Where the role name starts with now. There's a much better way. Far more efficient. I only want it checking the CreatorCon C3 roles, so I'm going to limit it to that, and that way our maximum record limit shouldn't be an issue. And there is one thing I want to try here. Output transformation strategy. So I believe this is related to the output that it spits out in the when you're testing it. And I kind of want to see what the output transformation looks like because I haven't messed with that yet, and I want to all right, so now that we've fixed the role querying, let's see where this gets us. Two records have been retrieved. Total of 8 records were retrieved from the generated image table. Maybe that one's an output. Yep, so here, instead of throwing a JSON payload, 5 records were returned from the user role table, including roles for players with and without avatars and general player roles with associated user display names where available. So that's what the output transformations does, is it takes your JSON outputs and converts it into human readable text. And that's just cool. Dear Travis Toulson, how formal. Your CreatorCon C3 profile has been thoroughly reviewed. The following actions were performed. Your profile record was confirmed as active and enabled for the current event. A bunch of other stuff was retrieved. Your user record is active and correctly associated with your profile. All required user roles are assigned. Based on this analysis, your profile is in a valid state for login and participation. No corrective actions are required at this time. If you have any further questions or require assistance, please let us know. And just to confirm, well, no, it probably won't let me use that. That'll probably be a separate thing. I was going to open up the intake app to see, but I realized that in my current user state, an avatar has already been selected, so the intake app won't be valid, which that could be a different AI agent. Not today, mind you. From here, I'm going to take some work offline. Let's pop things up here. From here, I'm going to take some work offline. So the next step for me, because this is now working, it is analyzing the records the way that I wanted. It is checking for issues and notifying me when something doesn't match the expected outcome. And I can't express how awesome that is. In the original tool that I made, I have to check for error conditions. Writing code that can kind of intuit in the way that this is would be very challenging. So most of my troubleshooting steps are, okay, if it's not active and not available for the current event, then I can click an action that will turn those on. I have to be very explicit in my mapping of problem and solution. What this is doing is it's actually analyzing those records against a known good state. The next step that I have to take is I have to explain the rest of the application. I have to fill out the rest of that prompt to illustrate to the AI all of the known good states. This is how my app is supposed to work in an ideal situation. Then, after that, the next step is going to be giving it remediation tools, the ability to update a profile, the ability to make changes to these different things. That's where things could get interesting. What I'm hoping is that AI agents will be able to leverage a broader skill, as in, instead of giving it a skill that says this skill allows you to update the active and current event flag, instead of being very explicit, my hope is that I can have it decide how to selectively update. I don't know if this side of things is going to work the way I want it to, but that's my hope. My hope is that I can give it a generic, here's the ability to update a profile record, here's the ability to update a photo submission, here's the ability to update a generated image, here's the ability to here are the different record update skills. Here's a skill to regenerate QR codes. And then let the AI figure out what those fields to update should be, what the values for those fields should be. Will it be able to intuit that certain fields should stay the same and not to update those while updating the ones that it found to be the problem? If it's capable of that degree of not only analysis, but also mapping to the root cause, that fundamentally changes my approach on how to do the maintenance tool. Like my other maintenance tool becomes irrelevant. I don't see a need for the service portal based method at that point if the AI is capable of doing it. If not, and I have to be more prescriptive about the actions it can take, it's not a total loss. It's still valuable. This is still an infinitely better analysis than what my current tool gives. Like this, like if it can't do my dream, I don't want to knock it. I don't want to sell it short. This is already a huge step above what I had before. This is fascinating. This is a huge leap forward. I'm hoping it can do so much more. If it can't, that'll be okay. We'll be more prescriptive in the remediation tools it has access to. If it can be fully prescriptive, the long shot is can I then teach another AI agent to make recommendations on how to fix, what's the root cause? Not just what went wrong with the profile record, but why did it go wrong? What's wrong in the code base? And what would you recommend to fix it? If I can do these things and then associate some of these agents with triggers so that it automatically checks your profile on a given state update, we will be in a completely different world than the dev advocates are in today. Like this is having to type in an email address and check is still pretty cool. Like I would still enjoy using this when I'm at the booth at these events. I would still enjoy being able to just say, hey, type your email in here. But okay, let's go through. Plus I could potentially expose this to end users through the mobile app, which is yet another awesome aspect, is that, you know, we can push some of those remediations to the edge. But if we can get the full automation in, we could get to a place where the AI is actually doing most of the remediation for us without our hands having to be on keyboard or even looking at the screen. That will fundamentally change how we currently operate this application at events and will really free up time for our team. So like, this is one of the things that's making this so much fun for me, is that this is not just a oh, this is a fun little thing Travis is doing on the side. Like, one of the most common comments that I received from folks on LinkedIn after CreatorCon India, the most common one was, Christy, it was so great to talk to you. Alan, it was so great to talk to you. Travis, hope to get to talk to you next time. Like, I was literally eyeballs on screen, hands on keyboard the entire time at CreatorCon India. This would fundamentally change my experience and y'all's experience with me at these events. So like, this is as practical an AI use as you'll get. Like, this is real life here. This is real impact for us. And that's what has me so excited about building this, and why some of these dream states and dream goals are like, oh my gosh, like this could really help fix things for us. Like the suggesting code fixes, I can't tell you how many of these events, Safe Harbor, Secret Time, I can't tell you how many of these events we're scrambling because we've made some code changes that things aren't working and I didn't test it thoroughly enough. I was doing it just this morning before Chicago World Forum, where we were scrambling at the last minute to fix some things that, you know, we had inadvertently broken in the dev cycle, and to have an AI agent that would be able to maybe look at that stuff for us, life-changing. Anyway, look, I'm 15 minutes over again. Let's see. Yes, Victor, yet another AI agent. All of the AI agents. Maybe have it know when events are and check records before the event. Absolutely. So right now, prior to the event, we import from our registration application. We do a data import that uploads all of the users. We have to make sure to update the current event. We have to, there are a bunch of little steps that we have to document and write out. And once again, I'm looking at AI for these sorts of things, and it's one thing to have a document that you can go access to remind you to do things. But what if I had an AI agent that I could what if I could pull up Now Assist and say, hey, we're getting ready to set up for London World Forum. What do we need to do to prepare C3? And all of our knowledge and information on C3 is just in the application, and it can walk folks through. Again, this is a real scenario. Nobody from the core C3 development team will be at the London World Forum. Secret time. None of the core team is going to be at the London World Forum, so we're doing everything we can to prep the dev advocates who will be at the London World Forum with all the information they need to run and operate this application. But it's also really hard not only to download all of the information from your brain about how the application works, but it's also equally hard as someone who is going to be operating this for the first time. It's hard to know which documents to look at. Where do you go? When do you go? What if you could just chat with someone who's always in your time zone and have them have the information that Travis, Christy, and Earl has, so that even though we're not in your time zone, we're still there supporting you with our knowledge and information. These are all of the different scenarios and use cases that are rolling around in my mind for how AI can transform how we operate this application. And I've had other ideas pop into mind recently for how to use it in other processes for the dev advocate team. The more I have dove into using it, the more I am recognizing what work looks like tomorrow is fundamentally different from how we're doing it today. It is equivalent, roughly equivalent, to going from no computers and doing everything via manila envelope to having computers at your disposal. It is a huge leap. It is a different way of approaching development, but the things that it's capable of, I just don't think I could do it without an LLM. I don't think I could make it work in code, not reasonably, not to the degree that the LLM is capable of. And that just changes the game, not only for how we use applications, but also how we develop them, how we interact and interface with the work that we are doing. There's a chance that less and less of it will be in a form in the future. I really have to wrap this up, but I do want to cover one last thing, and that is that, and Ben, I did not catch the context of your question of can I get AI to do that bit as well, but if you drop the context in the chat, I will definitely answer that question. What I was gonna say was that I saw this thing called Tavis.io, which is basically, and I forget the big fancy term, marketing term that they're using for it. It's a video chatbot is what it is. It's a video chatbot. There is a AI video person sitting in front of you. and they're talking to you, and you share your camera with them, and they can see you and what's in your background, and they can describe what's there. And you can ask it questions, and it's an LLM AI in the background. And as I'm sitting there talking to this thing, I'm thinking to myself, why would I interact with a form in the future? What use cases would still require a form? And I'm sure there will be some. I'm sure there are still use cases where a form will be the more appropriate method. But also more and more, there are going to be more and more cases that just don't. I can think about situations as a mechanic where you could show it a video of what you're working on and say, help me troubleshoot this, and the AI could help you pinpoint. You could show the AI what's on your screen and have it figure out and help you troubleshoot what's going on with your computer. You could turn around and have AI that is watching and monitoring different aspects of your IT infrastructure and responding accordingly. There's so many ways that this is going to change how we do things. Even day to day for me on a personal level, I use AI in my job, whether it's creating content, whether it's reasoning through what content to create, asking it how I can improve C3 and how I can improve different applications, ideation, organization, cooking. Like, there's just so many things that it's touching at this point. You were saying about the files that you had to upload before the... Okay, so the question is, can AI help with the uploading of files for the registrants into the C3 profiles? I have to think so. I have to think so. There is, if I remember, a skill for file upload. And I have to imagine that it could probably handle that. And this is the stuff that blows my mind, is that there's just so many things where right now we create these we create these UI widgets to turn around and drag and drop. And I'm saying this to you as someone who, for most of my career, I made my career on user interfaces like CMS, Service Portal, and now UI Builder. That's my jam. That is where I have operated for the longest period of time. Like, yes, I've done integrations. Yes, I've done back-end work. But like, UI is what most people have known me for. And I'm looking at what these AI agents can do, and I'm like, how many UIs are there left? How many UIs are left after chatbots and video chats start becoming a more predominant form of interacting with computers? It's just capable of more. It's just capable of things that I don't know how I replicate in an HTML form. I don't know how I craft a UI that does it as effectively. I mean, I'm literally living that right now, where I had created a troubleshooting tool that I was like, man, this is slick. This is cool. This is, more applications should have this kind of troubleshooting interface. And now I'm building it in a chatbot, and I'm like, well, what good? What good is this UI? Is this old UI that I made? Like, everything I'm doing with the AI chatbot is better. The fact that I can talk, so far we've only really done kind of linear, do the thing, do the thing, do the thing. But like, I can go back and interrogate this chat further. Like, I can ask it more questions and point it in other directions, and it will respond accordingly. I can't make my UI do that. Like, not for all of the possible things that a user can do. I have a hard enough time making sure I cover all the user edge cases for the things that they'll end up breaking in the UI. How am I also supposed to account for all the edge cases for the successful paths? Like, this is nuts what it's capable of. Can the agents read images in ServiceNow? So I don't know if Now LLM itself can. However, you can connect to other LLMs that can. So you can connect it to Gemini, and Gemini most definitely can. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, Now LLM does read images in its document processing. So, we have to try that. We have to try that at some point, because I'll bet you it can. I'll bet you it can. We're going to try that. Not today, but we are going to try that. What I was saying regarding the documents is that, like, you can upload PDFs and you can also upload like photos of receipts, and Now LLM will process that into records behind the scenes. And I forget what our marketing name is. You know, it's so great that I'm in the marketing department saying that. I don't know what we call our products. We can edit this one out, right? But our document processing, I know, handles that stuff. And so it's very likely that Now LLM does have some capabilities around that. And then we've got, if you know the event date and that's the trigger, and then it goes ahead and does all the things, including upload, then troubleshoot. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, this is one of the cool things that I really love about AI. This is probably my favorite thing about AI, and Now Assist especially. My favorite thing about Now Assist is that you can build these AI agents incrementally. It's already useful. This agent was already useful on day one. After 45 minutes of me screwing up the development of it, like in 15 minutes, I had a useful AI agent that was able to look at my profile and figure out that my profile was in a bad state because of the active flag and the current event. That's useful information. That is already a useful thing. This is now day 2 of AI agent, and it's significantly more powerful. We've given it a lot more information and a lot more capability. I can continue to add more to this AI agent or add additional AI agents and orchestrate them in an agentic workflow. And with each thing I add, it gets better. Now let me contrast that to the maintenance tool I was building before. It took 4 sessions, like, before I had anything useful, and I would still argue that it's not quite useful yet. Like, I can click on things, that's for sure, but I haven't tested any of the maintenance scripts. I don't know if any of them actually work yet. I still have to go through all the paces on those. I've written the scripts. Do they work? Some yes, others I don't know. With this, I'm getting value out of every session that I develop. I don't get that same value every time I develop when writing in code. It's one of the reasons that I've moved to doing this every Thursday, is because I'm just that daggone excited about it. I know that in the next session, I'm going to get more value out of this thing that I've built. I can't imagine waiting 2 weeks before doing more on it. Like, it fundamentally changes things. It fundamentally changes things. So, okay, I have now gone 30 minutes over what I was expecting to, which is great for us. This has been a fun conversation. And like I said, I don't think there's anything that says I actually have to stop, but I do have to stop eventually. So I feel like we've reached a good point today. With that, be sure to check out our other live coding live streams. Live coding streams. There we go. Be sure to check out our other live coding streams. We've got live coding second breakfast with Christy on Mondays. We have live coding 11sies on Wednesdays with Earl. And then you can see me back here every Thursday for live coding afternoon tea. And there's also the unofficial live coding happy hour that I believe is still rolling. Thank you guys for joining. This was a lot of fun. I hope to keep this thing moving and hope to see you guys next time. Thanks for joining.